thanks for coming. I just did this live, but I set it to private, so I just did it to myself. So I'm here doing it again. Hope you all had a lovely Easter weekend, and apologies that I'm sat in the garden because the kids are off school this week. So this is the only time I can get to catch up some work. I have to escape to the garden, and it's also where I eat my cream eggs as well, where I don't get bothered and I can eat them in peace. Anyway, so normally with lives I try to do give you guys a bit of notice so that you guys can send some questions ahead. Sorry I haven't been able to do that this time round. But I had an email from a lovely lady who had a few questions about her cat, and I thought it would just be useful for her and maybe for everybody to jump on and just talk those through. But if you do have a question as we go, then please feel free to drop a question in the comments or message me afterwards, and I can always answer you there or do another video to address the thing. The last video I just did for this exact thing was like 10 minutes, so can you imagine how long the email would be if I was sat at my desk? So I do find it easier to chat on here, so yeah, do feel free to send across your questions. So Tara is a lady who has had her cat for a couple of weeks and is just having a couple of issues with her settling in and making sure she's happy and just getting that bonding process underway. So I've got some notes here, and I'm just going to talk through again what the issues are, and hopefully it'll be helpful. So Tara said that on the first night she brought Biscotti home, then she was scared, understandably scared, obviously settling into a new territory, and she bit her in bed. I think that's what's happening. So, oh sorry, it started raining really heavily. So basically I have questions about that first night. So what sort of biting was it? Like, is it a bite when you're trying to stroke her, or is she running around and pouncing on you and biting you like in a sort of grabby bitey way? Or is there like an attack? Like, is there any hissing or growling? And what sort of injuries were there, if any? So that will give us a lot of information about how she's feeling, and will shape sort of how we deal with the problem. Like, from the rest of the email, from the tone of how things have gone, it doesn't feel like she was attacking. Well, let's move on to the second night, because the second night was a bit more information. So she snuggled up to you on the second night, which is a really good sign in that she's comfortable and she's looking for that close contact. So that's really good to see. And however, you've put that she did try to nip, but she's not broken the skin. So what I'm taking from that is, presumably, is when you touch her, it would be very rare, well, it's not very common for cats to just suddenly bite if you're not trying to interact with them first, not in this scenario anyway. So she's come and she's snuggled up next to you in bed. Unless she goes on the prowl, then I would imagine she's nipped when you try to touch her. So if I'm wrong about that, let me know. But what I would say about that is, because she's a rescue cat, what you'll probably find is that she has her boundaries and she has thresholds as to what she's happy with and what she isn't in terms of being stroked. So some cats, they don't like being touched at all, and that might just be because of their socialization or their temperament. They could have sensitivity, like skin sensitivity, or what's probably most common is that they have had some previous negative experiences in the past. So not that anyone has been cruel to her, but perhaps they've not handled her very well, or they've stroked her to the point where she's not liked it and she's sort of written off stroking for a little bit, or at least like a lot of stroking. So it can be about understanding where those thresholds are and what she's happy with and what she's not happy with. So that takes time for you to get to know and for you to learn about each other. So the second night, I wouldn't worry too much that that's a sign that something terrible is afoot, or that you've made a mistake, or that she's not happy. It's just the fact that you've not, at this point, figured out what it is that she likes. And again, she probably hasn't built up that trust in you just yet to know that you're not going to not harm her, but just not irritate her or give more than she's happy with. So then what have you said? So I know that you've had problems stroking her day to day as well. So she's coming and she's rubbing around your ankles. So she's seeking out that physical contact, which is really, really good, and a really good sign that that trust is there and it is starting to build. And she's looking for that closeness, but again, it feels like she's up for the closeness, but not necessarily the contact. So what I would recommend there is just keep the stroking very, very, very brief, like just a couple of seconds, and like around the side of the neck, where most cats tend to like it. And I'd avoid touching any other parts of her body at this point, because some cats are funny about having their paws touched or having their tails touched, or obviously their tummies, the big red zone. So it does take time to learn what she's okay with and what she isn't. So while you're getting to know her, it's best to just stick around doing it around the head, where they tend to like it most. And then as time goes on, then you can try different areas. But I'd also as well make sure you're sort of making her aware that you're coming to stroke her. So it can help to hold your hand out in front of her, like not too close at first, but just like come down to her level and hold your hand out and give it a little, a little move, and call her name and see if she comes over. Because sometimes what people will do is just like reach down and try to like pat them on the head or stroke them on the head, in which case that can cause a bite, because it's suddenly like, where's that come from? And they can suddenly just turn around and just start to nip. So like almost get her consent, if you like, by putting your hand out towards her. And if she comes towards you and she's like, oh yay, and she starts rubbing her head on your hand like she does with your ankles, then that's a really good sign that she's in the mood for a stroke, and you can give her a little tickle around the neck or behind her ears, and then just stop after a couple of seconds, so that it's very brief. You've almost left her wanting more, and you can really start to build up that trust from there, because for some cats, just a few more seconds than that, or if it's too heavy-handed, they can get overstimulated very quickly, and that's when the biting can start. So keep it brief for the time being, so that you can get that ball rolling and then work out what her thresholds are, and what she's happy with and what she isn't. So if she nips again in future, it's worth noticing, okay, where did I touch? How long did I stroke her? And what was the trigger for that nip? Like, what was it that she didn't like and that made her think, I don't want you to do that anymore? So that can be helpful. I note that you just say she was a rescue, and it can be tricky because we don't know what her previous experiences have been. So it could be that she might not be giving any warning signs anymore before she bites, because she's tried that in the past with the previous owners and they've ignored them, and she's had to bite to say, I've had enough. So now she doesn't bother with any of the warning signs. But also the warning signs are subtle as well. So it could just be that her ears turn back, it could be that her tail's swishing, or her fur starts rippling. Like, look out for those signs, because those often happen before a bite happens. So if you notice any of them, then it's a good idea to stop and see. But some cats, especially if they're getting overstimulated and they're like looking like they're super into it, and then they suddenly go, that's a good sign that they're getting overstimulated too. So if they're enjoying it too much, then that can be a good sign to stop as well, and just bring that arousal level back down and keep everything quite calm and not so sort of excitable, if that makes sense. Another issue is that when you wake up, you feed her in the morning, and then she comes back up, and so you get up, go down and feed her, come back up to bed, and then she comes and chases your ankle under the covers. That's a very common problem, and like quite a fun game when they're little, but not when they're older. So because they've got sharper claws and bigger teeth. So I think with this issue, most of the problems I've seen that involve this, it is misdirected play. It's fun. Like, your ankles will be the most fun thing to chase at that time, because all the toys that she undoubtedly has will just be lying around still on the floor. So it's much more fun to chase the ankles under the covers. And it's like that movie June, have you seen, where the worms are under the sand, and your ankle is essentially the worm under the sand, and very fun to pounce on and to grab. And if you move it around when she's got it, then it will make her bite down harder and try to grab it, because you're trying to escape. So it's a really fun game for her. So to try to combat this, then I would imagine she needs some additional stimulation. Like, generally throughout the day, additional stimulation is useful. So extra play sessions where you can, but also the situation of being 6 a.m. or 6:30, whatever time we're at by then, I imagine you're not going to be in the mood to play. I wouldn't be. So I would be mindful at that time that she might need some toys that move by themselves. so that she can go off and play with them, and that's the most fun thing in the room, not your ankles. So just be careful about your movements as well, because if you're like, I don't know, moving your legs around loads under the cover, you're going to attract her attention and she's going to want to chase that. So just be mindful. And if she does, like if it's too late and she's going for you, then keep your ankles still, and she should lose interest pretty quickly. But yeah, there's definitely, for the most part, in my experience, no intention to actually hurt you, or doesn't necessarily mean that there's any ill intent behind that. It's just fun. So it's just one of those annoying but quite cute things, maybe. Yeah, but unless she gets her paws under the cover, then it really hurts. Okay, one final issue is that she's quite a food scavenger, and I know you said, like, when you're trying to eat your food that she wants it, and even if you try to feed her at the same time, then she scoffs hers down and wants yours as well. So I can see how that's an issue, and I've been there as well with that issue. Sorry, my children are interrupting. Sorry, this is really annoying. Anyway, sorry, that was really annoying. So what I would recommend there is to feed them little and often. So if she has 2 meals through the day, so breakfast and dinner, then it can be useful to split those meals into smaller, more frequent portions throughout the day, just so that she's not super hungry and there's not hours going past without her eating, because it will make her more motivated to find food elsewhere. It can be also useful to feed her with an activity feeder, so like a food maze, or a puzzle feeder, or a slow feeder. Can slow that down and can also like make it a more stimulating activity, so that is changing her just boring old meal times into something that's using her mental, providing mental stimulation and using like her physical skills as well to get that food. So that can help keep her occupied. And then I would just be very mindful of what you're teaching her, because they pick up bad habits very, very quickly. So if she knows that there's any chance she can get any food from you, like in that you might have given her a bit of chicken from the table, or she might have accidentally snatched that ham sandwich out of your hand as you were eating it, which happens to me, then next time then she'll be like, oh, okay, great, yeah, I know that I can potentially get food here. So it becomes a learned behaviour very quickly. So I would just be very strict with that, like nothing from the table, nothing from the kitchen sides. All food comes on your own terms, because otherwise she takes it into her own hands to try and get that food, and that happens so often. Like, I know that if I give my cat a little bit of ham from the fridge, I can guarantee for the next week he'll sit by the fridge like, oh, is that ham coming again? And I have to be like, oh, done it again, and then be like, no, you can't have anything from the fridge. You can have it at a different time, when I put it in your bowl, or when I come and give it to you. And then it does drop off. Like, he's not around the fridge at the moment looking for ham. So they are creatures of habit, and they very quickly pick up bad habits. So keep that in mind. Okay, I've written on for ages, but just one last thing I wanted to mention is that, because I know that you said you're unsure about her history, and there seems to have been some misinformation along the way as to where she's come from or what her setup was before she came to you. So what I would just say here is that, in my experience, sometimes, and definitely not often, probably very rarely, but it still happens, some people aren't totally upfront with their cat's previous history, because if you're dealing with a cat with a behaviour problem, which was like 99% of the cats I see, and you've come to the point where you're rehoming, then you can see why people might hold back on some of that information, because it makes them less rehomable, and you wouldn't want that to affect their potential future. So I would just be mindful that you might be dealing with a long-standing problem, especially with the aggression. Well, I say aggression, I don't mean that, because if it's a little nip here and there, then it doesn't feel like it's proper aggression. But yeah, with that sort of behaviour, and with the food scavenging behaviour as well, like if these are long-standing problems, then it's only natural that they would resurface again now and take some time to work through. But it's still early days, and I know that we've spoken since your first email, and in the few days since that one, things have calmed down, and I'm glad to hear that you are bonding more with her, and things are getting a bit nicer between you. So it's lovely to see and to hear that. And these things do take time, and I have no doubt that you'll be fan friends before long, and these are just a few teething problems that you need to work through. But good for you for reaching out at this point, because this is the best time to get these things sorted, and it can just be a few like changes here and there that put you on the right track and then set you up for life. So thanks for not waiting for it to be like a problem that's been going on for 8 years and then us trying to unpick all that. But anyway, I will leave you for now. Thanks for watching, and if you guys have any questions that you want me to answer, or you want to talk about your cat and you want me to I don't know, be on the other end of a video, then I'd be more than happy to chat through. So do drop a comment in or send me an email. But anyway, hope you had a lovely Easter weekend. I will leave you and get out the rain, and I will see you another day. But take care. Bye.